Maya Torres had exactly 3 qualifications for her current assignment: a courier license, a clearance badge that was probably a clerical error, and the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that made terrible decisions seem reasonable. She was not qualified to be standing in the docking bay of Apex Station, staring at what could only be described as a convention center for things that ate other things. Diplomatic courier, she muttered to herself, checking her tablet for the 14th time. Simple delivery. In and out. They said it would be a career builder. She glanced at the massive blast doors leading into the station proper. They did not mention it would be a career ender. The Apex Concordat met once every 5 standard years, a gathering of the galaxy's premier predator species to discuss territory, trade, and presumably compare notes on the best marinades. Humans had been invited for the first time, which was either a promising sign of diplomatic progress or the galactic equivalent of being invited to a barbecue where you're not entirely sure you're a guest. Maya's job was simple: deliver Earth's official response to the Concordat's proposed trade route adjustments. The response was, essentially, a strongly worded letter about shipping lane access. She was a glorified mail carrier walking into a den of apex predators to complain about parking. The station itself was a marvel of intimidation architecture. Everything was just slightly too large, with doorways built for beings that didn't worry about fitting through them because nothing would dare block their path. The walls were decorated with what she hoped were abstract sculptures, but suspected were actually hunting trophies. The lighting was dim, the kind of atmospheric gloom that said, "We can see you in the dark, but you can't see us." Maya adjusted her diplomatic courier uniform, basically business casual with extra patches to indicate she was unarmed, and tried not to think about how many ways this could go wrong. She'd studied the attendees, of course. The creche hierarchy, mantis-like beings who considered negotiation a form of choreographed violence. The thallic swarms, pack hunters who made decisions through a consensus of hunger. The Keltharian princes, aquatic predators who'd figured out how to bring their terrifying underwater tactics to land-based warfare. And then there was Kravik the Sunderer. Even his name sounded like a war crime. Commander of the Vrexian Armada, holder of 17 territorial claims, undefeated in single combat for 3 decades. The Vrexians looked like someone had taken a Tyrannosaurus Rex, given it opposable thumbs and a superiority complex, then scaled it up to 9 feet tall. Kravik was allegedly larger than average, which seemed unnecessary from a design perspective. Maya had seen his image in the briefing materials. He looked like evolution had specifically designed him to appear in nightmares. "Courier Torres?" A reedy voice interrupted her spiral into panic. She turned to find an insectoid diplomat, all chitinous plates and too many joints. His diplomatic sash identified him as Ambassador Krill of the Chittering Communes, one of the few non-predator species present, apparently in some administrative capacity. "That's me," Maya said. "I'm here to deliver—" Yes, the human document." Krill's antennae twitched nervously. "You understand the protocol? Enter when announced, present the document to the Arbiter. Do not make eye contact with any of the Predator Lords, exit immediately." "Don't make eye contact," Maya repeated. "Got it. I cannot stress this enough," Krill continued, wringing his 4 hands together. "Eye contact is a challenge. A challenge is a death sentence. The Vrexians especially. Kravik's delegation has already made 3 other species representatives cry. One actually fainted. Inspiring confidence here, Ambassador. I'm simply trying to prevent an incident." Krill's mandibles clicked anxiously. "Humans are new. The Concordat doesn't quite know where to place you in the hierarchy. Some species think you're prey stock that got lucky with technology. Others aren't sure. This is your chance to establish your species' reputation." Maya looked down at her tablet, at the strongly worded letter about shipping lanes that would definitely establish humanity's reputation as incredibly boring. "No pressure then," she said. Krill led her toward the chamber entrance, still chattering nervously about protocol. Maya wasn't really listening. She was too busy calculating how quickly she could run back to her ship if everything went sideways. The doors opened, revealing a vast amphitheater filled with the galaxy's most efficient killers, and Maya Torres, mid-level diplomatic courier, walked into the food chain. The concordate chamber was designed to make visitors feel small, and it was very good at its job. The room was circular, with tiered seating rising up on all sides like a gladiatorial arena, except instead of spectators, each tier held a different species of apex predator, and instead of entertaining them, Maya was pretty sure she was the entertainment. The lighting came from bioluminescent strips that cast everything in a predatory amber glow. The air smelled like ozone and something else, something that triggered a very old, very primal part of Maya's brain that screamed, "Run." She walked across the open floor toward the central dais where the arbiter stood, a neutral party supposedly, though Maya noticed they were also 7 feet tall with rather impressive claws. Every eye in the chamber tracked her movement. She could feel the weight of their attention like a physical pressure. Humans, someone rumbled from the upper tiers. The new species, the ones with the loud ships and the louder opinions. Chitters and growls of amusement rippled through the chamber. Maya kept her eyes forward, walking toward the arbiter with as much confidence as she could fake. Her heart was doing a drum solo against her ribs. This was fine. This was all fine. Just deliver the document and leave. They walk on 2 legs, another voice observed. Forward-facing eyes. Interesting. Probably scavengers, a third voice suggested. Opportunistic feeders who found weapons. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd read about this in the briefing materials. The casual dismissal, the automatic categorization as prey species. It still stung to hear it in person. She reached the dais and held out her tablet to the arbiter. The United Earth Coalition's response to the Concordate's trade route proposal as requested. The arbiter took the tablet with a nod. Acknowledged, "You may... wait." The voice that interrupted was deep, resonant, and came from directly behind Maya. "Let me see this. Human." Maya's blood turned to ice water. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The sudden silence in the chamber told her everything. Even the other predator lords had gone quiet. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, each one making the floor vibrate slightly. Kravik the Sunderer walked around Maya in a slow circle, and she finally got a good look at him in person. The briefing images had not done him justice. He was massive, easily 9.5 feet of scaled muscle and predatory intent. His eyes were golden, with slit pupils that contracted as they focused on her. His teeth, visible through his partially opened jaw, were the size of her fingers. This is what humanity sends to the Concordate? Kravik's voice was amused, which was somehow worse than angry. A small, soft thing without fangs or claws? "I'm a diplomatic courier," Maya said, proud that her voice only shook a little. "I'm here to deliver a document, not compete for territory." "Everything is competition, little human." Kravik leaned down, bringing his massive head level with hers. "Your species wishes to negotiate trade routes through territories controlled by the Vrexian Armada. You come to my domain to make demands. That is a challenge, whether you intend it or not." Maya's training kicked in. De-escalate, show respect, don't engage. The document outlines a mutually beneficial arrangement. I'm simply the messenger. A messenger. Kravik straightened up, his tail lashing behind him. "Do you know what my species does with messengers from prey species?" "I'm hoping it involves receiving the message," Maya offered weakly. The chamber erupted in harsh laughter, barks, roars, clicking sounds that all meant the same thing. She was the joke. Kravik's amusement was more theatrical now, playing to the crowd. He reared up to his full height, displaying the brilliant crimson patterns on his throat, a dominance display Maya recognized from the briefing. His roar shook the chamber, a sound designed by evolution to freeze prey in their tracks. It worked. Maya's legs locked up, every muscle in her body screaming contradictory instructions. Run. Hide. Play dead. Definitely don't anger the 9-foot murder lizard. Other predator lords were joining in now, adding their own displays. The chamber became a cacophony of dominance behaviors, all directed at the small human on the floor. Kravik leaned down again, his eyes boring into hers. "Lower your gaze, human. Submit, and I will allow your species to be heard. Refuse, and I will demonstrate why the Vrexians are the apex. It was the reasonable choice. The smart choice. Lower her eyes. Show deference. Deliver the message. Leave alive. Maya had been awake for 36 hours. She'd spent the last week cramped in a courier ship designed for cargo, not comfort. She'd eaten nothing but ration bars and recycled coffee. She'd been mocked, dismissed, and threatened for the crime of delivering mail. And now this overgrown dinosaur wanted her to bow? Maya's exhausted, spite-fueled lizard brain made a decision before her rational mind could stop it. She looked Kravik the Sunderer directly in his predatory golden eyes. And she didn't look away. The chamber went from deafening to dead silent in half a heartbeat. Maya realized immediately that she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Every instinct, every bit of training, every survival mechanism in her body was screaming at her to break eye contact, to apologize, to run. But she'd committed to the stare and some stubborn core of her personality, the same part that had gotten her detention in school and demerits in training, refused to back down now. Kravik's eyes widened slightly. Just a fraction, but enough for Maya to notice. He took a step closer. His massive form loomed over her, blocking out the amber light. His jaws opened wider, displaying rows of serrated teeth designed to tear through hull plating. A low, rumbling growl emanated from somewhere deep in his chest. Maya's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists at her sides, nails digging into her palms. The pain helped her focus, gave her something to anchor to besides the rising panic. Don't blink. Don't look away. Don't give him the satisfaction. It was perhaps the dumbest hill to die on in galactic history. You dare? Kravik's voice was low, dangerous. You dare challenge me? Maya's mouth was too dry to respond. She wasn't even sure she could form words at this point. So she just kept staring, her forward-facing eyes locked onto his. From somewhere in the tiered seating, Ambassador Krill made a sound like a tea kettle having an anxiety attack. Kravik moved even closer. Maya could feel the heat radiating off his scales, could smell something sharp and acrid. Adrenaline, maybe, or whatever Vrexians produced when they were preparing to fight. His pupils were contracting and dilating rapidly, his body coiled like a spring ready to explode into violence. But he wasn't attacking. Why wasn't he attacking? Maya's legs were starting to cramp from the tension. Her eyes were beginning to water, not from fear, entirely, but from the simple biological need to blink. She fought it, forcing her eyes to stay open. Humans weren't supposed to be good at this. Most prey species had eyes on the sides of their heads, designed to watch for predators from multiple angles. Predators had forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. But humans were weird. Forward-facing eyes like predators, but with a persistence that most predators didn't bother with, because most predators were ambush hunters or short-distance chasers. They burst after prey, caught it quickly or gave up and conserved energy. Humans followed prey for hours, days even. Humans didn't give up. Humans just kept coming, kept tracking, kept pursuing until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence predators. That's what the xenobiology texts called them. Maya had read it in preparation for this assignment, had thought it was interesting trivia. She hadn't realized it applied to staring contests. The other predator lords were starting to shift in their seats. The casual amusement had evaporated, replaced by something else. Confusion, concern, interest. What is she doing? Someone whispered, the question carrying in the silent chamber. Why isn't she braking? Another voice asked. Kravik's display was escalating. He roared again, louder this time, the sound reverberating off the chamber walls. His claws scraped against the floor, leaving gouges in the metal. His tail whipped back and forth in agitation. Maya stood perfectly still, eyes locked on his, and refused to flinch. Her vision was starting to blur slightly from the effort of not blinking. Tears were forming at the corners of her eyes, but that was just biology. Her eyes producing moisture to keep from drying out. She wasn't crying. She was just persisting. Ambassador Krill had gone from anxious clicking to what might have been the insectoid equivalent of hyperventilating. This is unprecedented, he chittered to someone nearby. She's not. Humans aren't supposed to. Does anyone know what humans are? Their file said they were a developing prey species, someone responded, sounding uncertain now. That file may be incorrect, Krill said, his voice climbing to a higher register. I've worked with humans for 3 cycles now. They do this. They just persist at everything. They don't know when to stop. But Kravik is discovering what the old hunting texts call a persistence predator, Krill interrupted. Humans hunted prey by following it until the prey died of exhaustion. They didn't chase, they pursued. For hours, sometimes days. They're built for stamina-based intimidation. Maya knew none of this context. She was too focused on keeping her eyes open, on maintaining eye contact, on not collapsing despite her legs feeling like rubber. She'd accidentally turned a diplomatic incident into the galaxy's most awkward staring contest, and she was too stubborn to lose. Kravik was starting to look less aggressive and more uncertain. His displays were becoming less confident, more performative. His eyes were watering now too, his nictitating membranes flickering across his eyes in rapid succession. He was blinking. Frequently. Predator eyes designed for short, intense focus on prey during the chase. Not designed for extended eye contact. Not built for persistence. Maya's exhausted, spite-fueled human eyes just kept staring. The standoff stretched on, seconds that felt like hours. The chamber remained utterly silent except for Krill, his nervous chittering, and the sound of Maya's heartbeat pounding in her ears. Kravik's eyes were streaming now. His pupils dilated wide, then contracted to slits, his body's attempt to adjust, to cope, to find some way to end this unnatural confrontation. And then finally, inevitably, his eyes closed for just a fraction too long. He blinked, properly blinked. And when his eyes opened again, they were looking slightly downward. The Sunderer had looked away first. For a moment, nothing happened. The universe seemed to pause, unsure of how to process what had just occurred. Then Kravik the Sunderer, legendary Vrexian warlord, undefeated champion of 36 territorial disputes, took a half-step backward. The chamber erupted. Did he just... Impossible. The human won? What is that species? Maya, still locked in place by sheer stubbornness and muscle cramps, finally allowed herself to blink. The relief was immediate and intense. Her eyes were burning, tears streaming down her face, but she'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, she'd done it. Kravik was staring at her with a completely different expression now. The aggression was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect? Confusion? Fear? His head tilted to one side, studying her with those golden eyes that were no longer trying to dominate, but to understand. You didn't break, he said quietly, his voice cutting through the chaos in the chamber. Your eyes, they don't tire like ours. You can maintain focus indefinitely. I mean, not indefinitely, Maya croaked, her voice rough. But yeah, pretty long. Ambassador Krill was practically vibrating with nervous energy in his seat. I tried to tell you all, he said to the predator lords around him. The humans, they're pursuit predators. They don't have our burst speed or our strength, but they have endurance. They hunted prey on their homeworld by simply following it until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They didn't need to catch it quickly. They just needed to outlast it. That's a prey species tactic, a Keltharian prince objected. Outlasting predators by hiding or fleeing. No, Krill corrected, his voice gaining confidence. That's an apex predator tactic. The most successful predator on Earth wasn't the fastest or the strongest. It was the one that never stopped coming. Humans ran their prey to death across entire continents. They are stamina-based persistence hunters, and apparently that applies to eye contact as well. The implications rippled through the chamber like a shockwave. Maya was still trying to process what had happened. Her legs finally gave up the fight, and she swayed slightly. Kravik's massive hand shot out, not to attack, but to steady her. His claws, which could have easily pierced through her, barely touched her shoulder. You are not prey, Kravik said, and there was something like wonder in his voice. Your species has forward-facing eyes, binocular vision. You are pursuit predators. We're diplomats, Maya managed, though it sounded weak even to her. You are both, Kravik corrected. Your ancestors hunted across plains until their prey's hearts burst from exhaustion. You carry that in your blood. I felt it. That gaze. It is the gaze of a predator that knows it will outlast you, that will follow you until the stars grow cold if necessary. Maya wanted to point out that she'd really just been too tired and stubborn to back down, but Kravik was on a roll. He straightened to his full height, his posture shifting from aggressive to something else. Something formal. His tail swept across the floor in a complex pattern Maya didn't recognize. I have faced many challengers, Kravik announced to the chamber. I have bested warriors from 100 worlds, but I have never faced a species that could defeat me through sheer persistence of will. He looked back at Maya. Your species deserves recognition as apex predators. You have earned respect through the old ways, through the trial of dominance. I just wanted to deliver a document about shipping lanes, Maya said weakly. You have delivered much more than that, Kravik replied. Then, to Maya's absolute shock, the 9-foot warlord performed a partial bow, a gesture she'd read about in the briefing materials. It was a sign of respect between equals, between fellow apex predators. Her exhausted brain took several seconds to process this. Kravik the Sunderer was bowing to her. The chamber was in complete chaos now. Some species were chattering in agitation, others in excitement. The power dynamics of the Concordat had just been fundamentally disrupted by one exhausted human who'd been too tired to know when to look away. Maya, running on fumes and adrenaline and the kind of confidence that only comes from surviving something that should have killed you, straightened her courier uniform and returned Kravik's bow with a casual nod. Cool, she said, her voice cracking slightly. So, about those trade routes? The casual nod had been instinctive, the kind of acknowledgement you give when someone holds a door open, not when a 9-foot warlord performs a ritual gesture of respect. But Maya was too far gone to care about protocol anymore. She'd already accidentally established humanity as apex predators, she might as well lean into it. Kravik's eyes widened slightly at her nonchalant response, then, impossibly, he laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that reminded Maya of tectonic plates shifting. You face down the Sunderer and immediately return to bureaucracy. Your species is fascinating. Maya pulled out her tablet, which had somehow survived the confrontation. Her hands were still shaking, but she managed to call up the trade route proposal. Yeah, we're fun at parties. So, the United Earth Coalition respectfully requests... Granted, Kravik interrupted. Maya blinked. I'm sorry. What? The trade routes. Granted. You may use the shipping lanes through Vrexian territory. He waved a clawed hand dismissively. The terms in your document are acceptable. Just like that, you have proven your species worthy of respect. The Vrexians do not impede apex predators. We negotiate with them as equals. Kravik's tail swished in what might have been amusement. Besides, I am now intensely curious about humanity. A species that hunts through persistence, that carries forward-facing eyes and endurance in equal measure. I wish to understand this better. Trade agreements are a good beginning. From the tiered seating, other predator lords were beginning to stir. A Kresh matriarch clicked her mandibles together. If the Vrexians are recognizing the humans as apex predators, the hierarchy would also like to renegotiate our stance. The Thalic swarms as well, another voice called out. We may have been hasty in our initial assessment. Maya looked around the chamber, watching as the galaxy's most dangerous species suddenly decided humanity was worth talking to, all because she'd been too stubborn to look away from an overgrown lizard. Ambassador Krill had materialized at her elbow, having somehow descended from the upper tiers without Maya noticing. This is unprecedented, he chittered, his antennae quivering with what might have been excitement or terror, possibly both. Courier Torres, do you understand what you've done? Accidentally started a diplomatic revolution through spite? Essentially, yes. Krill was frantically typing notes into his own tablet. Humans have been classified as a prey species with technology for 3 standard years. In the span of 10 minutes, you've completely overturned that assessment. The ramifications are... He paused, searching for the word. Significant. I'm sending reports back to the chittering communes immediately, Krill continued. And to human command, of course. They'll want to know that their diplomatic approach may need adjustment. Maya glanced at her own tablet, where several urgent messages were already piling up. Apparently, word traveled fast in the Concordat. The human who outstared the Sunderer, one message read. Another simply said, "What did you do?" Krevik was still watching her with that unsettling combination of respect and curiosity. "Tell me, human, Maya Torres, yes? Is this persistence common among your species?" Maya thought about every human she'd ever met. The scientists who'd spent decades on single problems. The artists who'd revised the same work hundreds of times. The engineers who'd looked at an impossible problem and responded with, "Watch this." The sheer bloody-minded stubbornness that had pushed humanity from caves to spacecraft in a geological eye blink. "Yeah," she said slowly. "Yeah, I'd say it's pretty common. We're kind of known for not knowing when to quit." "Terrifying," Krevik said, and he sounded genuinely impressed. "And fascinating. I look forward to future negotiations between our species." He gestured toward the Arbiter, who'd been watching the whole exchange with an expression that suggested they were deeply regretting their life choices. "The humans document has been received and accepted. This matter is concluded." Maya nodded, managed another professional bow toward Krevik and the assembled Predator Lords, and turned to walk back toward the chamber exit. Her legs were screaming in protest. Her eyes felt like they'd been sandblasted, and she was pretty sure she was running on pure adrenaline at this point. But she made it across the floor with her head high, maintained the dignified bearing of someone who definitely hadn't just won the galaxy's weirdest dominance contest. Ambassador Krill scurried alongside her, still chittering about protocols and historical precedents. The chamber doors opened and Maya stepped through into the corridor beyond. The doors closed behind her, cutting off the noise of the Concordat. Maya made it exactly 5 steps down the corridor before her legs finally gave out completely. She sat down hard on the floor, her back against the wall, and started laughing. The slightly unhinged laughter of someone who survived something they definitely shouldn't have. Krill hovered nearby, concerned. "Courier Torres, are you experiencing a medical emergency?" "Nope," Maya gasped between laughs. "Just processing the fact that I accidentally became humanity's first apex predator representative by being too tired to blink." "Well," Krill said thoughtfully, "you have certainly established a memorable precedent. I suspect future human diplomats will have much easier negotiations. Or they'll all be expected to win staring contests," Maya countered. "I may have set an unrealistic standard." From somewhere down the corridor, Maya's communication device chimed with an incoming priority message. She pulled it out, squinting at the screen. The message was from Captain Rodriguez, her supervisor back on the diplomatic ship. "Torres, what the hell did you do? Every species in the sector is trying to contact us. Get back to the ship immediately." Maya showed the message to Krill, who made an amused clicking sound. "I believe," the ambassador said, "you are about to become very famous. Or infamous. Possibly both." "Wonderful," Maya muttered. "All I wanted was to deliver a letter and maybe grab a decent meal." "You delivered much more than a letter," Krill observed. "You delivered a message about humanity itself, whether you intended to or not." Maya hauled herself back to her feet, her muscles protesting every movement. "Great. Let's go face the consequences of my terrible life choices." They started walking toward the docking bay, Krill still providing a running commentary on historical precedents and diplomatic implications. Maya wasn't really listening anymore. She was too busy wondering if her personnel file now included "stared down a warlord under special skills." Probably not the career builder she'd been hoping for, but it would definitely make for an interesting performance review. Captain Elena Rodriguez had the expression of someone who opened what they thought was a routine report and instead found a live grenade. Maya sat across from her in the briefing room of the UEC diplomatic vessel Perseverance, which now seemed like an ironically appropriate name. She'd managed to clean up, change into a fresh uniform, and consume approximately 3 meals worth of food in the 2 hours since leaving Apex Station. She felt almost human again. Almost. Rodriguez stared at her datapad, then at Maya, then back at the datapad. So, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You were sent to deliver a standard diplomatic document regarding trade route access. Instead, you got into a staring contest with Kravik the Sunderer, and won. That's a very reductive summary of events, but yes, essentially. And now, Rodriguez continued, her voice climbing slightly. We have 17 requests for formal diplomatic meetings with human representatives. The Vrexian Armada wants to discuss apex predator protocols. The Kresh hierarchy is asking about our persistence hunting strategies. And the Thalic swarm sent a message that just says, "We would like to not be hunted, please advise." Maya winced. In my defense, I was very tired. Torres, you accidentally reclassified humanity's position in the galactic hierarchy through sheer stubborn eye contact. Again, very tired, jet-lagged, space-lagged. Is there a term for that? Rodriguez set down her datapad and rubbed her temples. The xenobiology team just sent me a 16-page report about pursuit predator classifications and persistence hunting adaptations. Apparently, you demonstrated traits that several species thought were extinct or mythological. I just didn't want to look away first, Maya said. It seemed important at the time. Well, you've certainly made an impression. Rodriguez pulled up something on her datapad. Before I continue this debriefing, I should tell you something. This wasn't entirely unexpected. Maya sat up straighter. What? Human xenobiologists have been studying the galactic predator-prey classification system for years. They noticed something interesting. The classifications were based primarily on physical characteristics: teeth, claws, speed, strength. But Earth's dominant predator, humans, didn't fit the standard model. Because we don't have big teeth or claws, Maya said slowly. Exactly. We're persistence hunters. We evolved to pursue prey across vast distances, using endurance and tracking rather than speed or strength. Our forward-facing eyes, our upright stance, our thermoregulation, all adaptations for marathon hunting, not sprinting. Rodriguez leaned back in her chair. The xenobiology team predicted that if humanity ever ended up in a dominance contest with a traditional predator species, our persistence adaptations might give us an unexpected advantage. So I was accidentally the test case for this theory. Essentially, yes. Though I doubt they expected the test case to happen quite so dramatically, or in front of the entire Apex Concordat. Rodriguez almost smiled. Torres, you've become something of a sensation. Galactic news coverage is calling it Prey Species Defeats Predator Lord with Eye Contact. There are already 3 different explanatory videos about human persistence hunting. One of them has 12 million views. Maya groaned. I'm never living this down, am I? Absolutely not. In fact, I have new orders for you. Please don't tell me I have to do more staring contests. Not exactly. Rodriguez pulled up an official-looking document. Command has created a new diplomatic position, Persistence Predator Specialist. Your job will be to attend high-level meetings with predator species and, well, essentially be yourself. Demonstrate human endurance, persistence, and our unique approach to challenges. Maya stared at her supervisor. They're making me the official Staredown specialist? Among other things, you'll receive full diplomatic training, of course, and a significant promotion. But yes, essentially, Command wants you to continue doing what you did today, showing the galaxy that humans are not prey species. We're just a different kind of predator. This is insane. This is diplomacy, and apparently, you're very good at it. Rodriguez slid the datapad across the table. Take a look at the compensation package. I think you'll find it significantly better than courier pay. Maya scrolled through the document, her eyebrows rising. The salary was indeed much better. So were the benefits. And the title, Diplomatic Representative, Apex Relations, certainly sounded more impressive than mid-level courier. There's also a footnote, Rodriguez added. about how this position was created based on the recommendation of Ambassador Krill and, surprisingly, Kravik himself. The Sunderer apparently sent a personal message to Human Command saying that your species demonstrates admirable predatory traits and should be given appropriate diplomatic respect. The warlord I stared down is now my professional reference. Galactic politics are weird, Torres. Maya sat back, processing everything. She'd gone from delivering mail to becoming humanity's representative of persistence predation, all because she'd been too exhausted and stubborn to look away from a 9-foot lizard who could have easily killed her. "What if I say no?" she asked. Rodriguez shrugged. "Then someone else gets the job, and you go back to courier duty. But between you and me, you're good at this. You faced down one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy and somehow turned it into a diplomatic victory. That's not luck, Torres. That's skill. It was mostly spite. Some of humanity's greatest achievements have been fueled by spite." Rodriguez stood up. "Take some time to think about it. You've got 24 hours before I need an answer." Maya nodded, gathering up her things. As she reached the door, Rodriguez called out, "Torres, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. You made humanity look like serious players on the galactic stage, even if you did it through the weirdest possible method." "Thanks, Captain, I think." Back in her quarters, Maya collapsed onto her bunk and pulled up the galactic news feeds on her personal tablet. Rodriguez hadn't been exaggerating. Her face, specifically a frozen image of her mid-stare with Kravik, was everywhere. "Humans, apex predators are extremely stubborn," read one headline. "The Persistence Hunter, why one species' endurance changed the Concordat," read another. There was even a comedy piece titled "I Tried to Outstare a Human, a Predator's Cautionary Tale." Maya scrolled through the articles, interviews, and analysis pieces. Most were surprisingly respectful, even fascinated. The galaxy was re-evaluating humanity not as lucky prey species with good technology, but as a genuinely dangerous predator type they'd never encountered before, all because she'd been too tired to follow protocol. Her communicator chimed, a message from an unknown contact, routed through official Concordat channels. Maya opened it cautiously. "Courier Torres, or should I say Representative Torres? This is Kravik. I wish to convey my respect once more. Your species has taught me something valuable. That predation takes many forms, and the most dangerous hunter is not always the fastest or strongest, but the one who never stops. I look forward to our next meeting. May your hunts be successful." Maya read the message twice, then started laughing again. The good kind this time, not the unhinged survival laughter from earlier. She'd come to Apex Station as a nobody courier delivering a strongly worded letter about parking. She was leaving as humanity's official representative of stubbornness with a job offer that would make her mother finally stop asking when she'd get a real career, and a personal message from a warlord who respected her ability to not blink. "Only humans," she muttered to herself, typing out her acceptance of the new position to Captain Rodriguez. Only humans would accidentally become apex predators through spite and exhaustion. She hit send, then added a personal note at the bottom. "For the record, I'm billing overtime for the staring contest. That has to count as hazard pay." Her tablet chimed with Rodriguez's response almost immediately. "Approved. Welcome to diplomatic service, Representative Torres. Try not to start any wars with your face." Maya grinned, set her tablet aside, and finally allowed herself to sleep. She dreamed of running across vast plains, pursuing something just beyond the horizon, never tiring, never stopping. The dream of a persistence predator, carried in human DNA for hundreds of thousands of years. When she woke 8 hours later, there were 43 new meeting requests waiting in her inbox. Apparently, the galaxy wanted to talk to the human who'd won the Staredown. Maya Torres, former mid-level courier, current apex predator specialist, cracked her knuckles and got to work. After all, humans were very good at persistence.